Welcome to SportsBeat KC, the Kansas City Star's daily sports podcast. It is Wednesday, March 10th, and I'm Blair Kerkhoff. We're talking Chiefs today with most of the A-team. Herbie, Teope, Sam McDowell, and Sam Mellinger are here. Vahe Gregorian was on assignment, and we're here to discuss a couple of new additions to the name of Arrowhead Stadium for one, and to the family of Patrick Mahomes for another, and plenty of topics in between. We review the career highlights of fullback Anthony Sherman, who has retired, and we discuss a couple of position groups, one on each side of the ball, as free agency approaches. So let's get started talking Chiefs. Guys, I think it's been since Super Bowl that we've had this many of us together on a chat with Sam McDowell, Herbie Teope, and Sam Mellinger. Vahe couldn't join us today. Vahe's in Arizona at Royal Spring Training, so somehow we'll get along without him today. And you know, when a Chiefs story makes the A1 of the Star, it's usually over the last few years been something, success. They won a playoff game or did something good. The most recent A1 appearance for the Chiefs on the Star is for something I think deserved to be out there, but a little unusual. The Chiefs, after 50 years, have naming rights. Sold the naming rights to Arrowhead Stadium to GEHA. It's going to be GEHA Field at Arrowhead Stadium, and it's going to take a little getting used to. For me, I don't know about you guys, but for me, it's always been Arrowhead Stadium. Maybe it'll always be just Arrowhead Stadium, but Government Employees Health Association has bought into it. We don't know how much, but it's not an insignificant piece of news, Sam McDowell, is it?
No, I mean, I think that by calling it GEHA Field at Arrowhead, I've already screwed it up on the very first time I tried to reference this. But I think they've given us license to still just call it Arrowhead Stadium, right? I mean, that's the important thing, is what can we refer to it as in print? And I still think they've said we could still call it Arrowhead. But I understand that this is a big deal because of the significance of just history and of itself. But fans aren't going to change what they call Arrowhead Stadium. They're going to still call it Arrowhead Stadium. And there was such outrage and backlash from a lot of people, at least on the place where outrage and backlash have a home, which is social media. And I guess, nobody's forcing you to call it GEHA Field at Arrowhead Stadium. You can still call it Arrowhead, and I still think most people will. So
it's a Lee Summit-based company. To be honest with you, I had never heard of it until they...
There's a lot of success going on over here in Lee Summit, Blair.
Yeah, okay. So I'd never heard of it until they became associated with the Chiefs. Remember in 2019 at training camp, the Chiefs announced a relationship with GEH, the provider of medical and dental plans to federal employees and retirees, serves 1.8 million people worldwide with about 1,500 employees in Kansas City. And if brand recognition is the objective, I think that they've accomplished that by attaching themselves to a pretty successful football squad in the Chiefs. But hey, Melly, don't you think that, and I think you wrote this in the minutes last week, or maybe I saw this somewhere else in your writing, but there's a significance to the length of the contract that the GEHA has with the Chiefs.
Yeah, I mean, it expires the same as the leases at the sports complex. And so, I mean, I have long thought, and nothing has happened that makes me feel, everything that's happened makes me feel more sure about this, that the Chiefs are hoping that the Royals move downtown. And I think the Royals are hoping that the Royals move downtown as well. But if and when that happens, then, the Chiefs have a lot more land. And they can either build a new stadium, a modernized Arrowhead where Kaufman is now, and then either just implode Arrowhead and make it more parking, or somehow convert that into some sort of like commercial, revenue stream that will help them out. The 55 days a year or whatever that they don't have a game. So I think it's a long-term thing. It kind of tells you like where they want to go in a lot of ways. And, you know, from their point of view, you know, what's funny is like you just said, Blair, that, you know, you'd never heard of GEHA. I didn't either. And to be honest with you, like even after they put GEHA on the thing behind Andy Reid when he talks and all that, I still cared so little about that I wasn't sure if it's GEHA or GEHA, whatever. Like, I just don't care. And I've heard that many Chiefs employees had never heard of GEHA, to the point where when this thing was presented and GEHA came to the Chiefs and said, we're interested in doing this, that may have been kind of an awkward couple days for the sales department, where it's like, how come we have never gone out and tried to sell advertising to these people? Like, how come? And because nobody knew about them. And it's, you know, it makes sense if they're trying to, you know, at some point expand, right? And not just be for federal employees and military, you know, to compete with whatever, Blue Cross Blue Shield or wherever the kids get their insurance these days.
Hey, here's something interesting, because, you know, all three of you gentlemen have said you'd never heard of it. Okay, as you guys know, I'm retired Army. I had never heard of GEHA. I mean, most of us who go through insurance, we're going through TRICARE, Humana TRICARE, or you're going through USAA. So this was a learning experience for me as well. You know, just doing the background research on the company, formed in 1937, but they were initially for postal workers. As the years progressed and decades progressed, then they opened the door for military families and military retirees and their families. So if their intent was, as Blair mentioned earlier, for branding purposes, hey, kudos, because it worked. I mean, it made me as a military veteran look them up and say, what exactly is this company? Well, now we know.
So I don't know how we'll end up referring to the Arrowhead Stadium, you know, in the future, just Arrowhead, or will we use the GEHA in first reference? I don't know. But what I do know is when games are televised, and all games are televised, when we find out from CBS, Fox, or NBC, whoever's doing the games, where the game is originating from, it will use the proper name at the beginning. And I suspect that there will be, if there wasn't already, correct me if I'm wrong, was there some branding on the field, on the turf this year? I don't recall that, but there now will be inside Arrowhead Stadium. I read that there will be GEHA branding throughout the stadium. So anyway, I do remember whenever Mile High Stadium in Denver ceased to be just Mile High, was it Invesco or whatever it was?
Yep, Invesco Field.
Field at Mile High, people were angry. Broncos fans were just saying, we'll never do it. We'll never refer to it. It'll always be Mile High. And, you know, I guess now I still think of it as Mile High, but, you know, it's been Sports Authority, it's been Invesco, it's whatever it is now. These things, they're just names. They're just names. You know, this week we're going to cover the Big 12 basketball tournament at T-Mobile Center for the first time. Yeah. The building's been open since 2007, known as Sprint Center. It'll just take a little while to get used to it, but once you do, it's just not that big a deal. It's a big deal for GEHA though, that's for sure.
Well, yeah, you know what's funny about this is, like, you know, I've come to think of like sports are the least important thing in the world, except for the times that they're the most important thing in the world. Like, this is a completely irrelevant story for all the reasons that you just said, Blair. But so it shouldn't matter. Nobody's going to call it that except for Jim Nantz. But it does matter because, like, that place becomes personal to you. You know, you've made memories there. You've made friends. You've laughed. You've cried. You've cheered. You've cursed, kickers in that whatever in that stadium. And now, like, your memories have been sold to a corporate bidder. You know what I mean? And that can feel, I think, understandably personal to people. So it's weird. It's like a completely irrelevant thing, but it burns you inside at the same time. I get it.
I think, if anything, though, Melly, the counterpoint to that is now the Chiefs have joined the movement around the National Football League, because as of that signing with that agreement, now there's only 4 NFL stadiums without a corporate name. One of those 4 just recently lost, or where their contract with New Era expired. So now it went back to Bill Stadium. So without a corporate name, there's only Lambeau Field, Bill Stadium, Paul Brown Stadium, and Soldier Field. Arrowhead just happened to join the rest of the league.
Yeah, there's 4 without, and there's 2 that are named after Mercedes.
A lot of money there.
Right.
Yeah. So no naming rights for Kauffman Stadium just yet, but do we think that might happen?
I don't know. I'm just too distracted by what I just saw.
Hold up. I'll fix that for you, Barry.
This is podcast only, right, Blair?
Yes.
Sorry. No, I mean, I don't know. There's a new owner. Obviously, I haven't heard John Sherman asked about that, right? I mean, I'm sure everybody's got a price, right? Clark Hunt just told everybody what. I mean, Clark Hunt's got an undisclosed price, but he's got one too. Yeah, I mean, I think they would if they got the right check.
So usually these things, at least $1 million a year, but in some cases they go up to $10 million a year. The 10 to 15 million a year. The naming is right. We don't know what it is, but and the other thing, the last point I'll make on this is, I remember reading a story about. I don't know, maybe it was in 2000, early 2000s. I think Adam Teicher wrote it when he was covering the Chiefs for us. Talked to Lamar Hunt about naming rights, and Lamar resisted that idea. Even though the Chiefs were losing some money, not losing money, but losing ground financially to other stadiums that were opening throughout the NFL, and Arrowhead hadn't been updated. That would happen in the next few years. But Lamar just wasn't interested in selling the naming rights to Arrowhead Stadium. Now we've figured out a way to keep Arrowhead in the title, and I think that happens in other naming situations as well. But Clark Hunt, no, he's a different, a little different when it comes to this.
To the Chiefs' credit, just from talking to Mark Donovan after the agreement, he said it was extremely important because they actually balked at previous offers over his 11 years with the Chiefs organization because they didn't want to have Arrowhead Stadium in the name. But at least now with GEHA, they were able to find that common ground. It's a locally based company, and they understood the importance of having Arrowhead Stadium in the name. So that helped facilitate the agreement.
Okay, hey, let's switch gears and talk about the newest deputy sheriff of in America. We don't know where Anthony Sherman's going to assume that title, I don't think, do we? But that seems to be his next career goal. Anthony Sherman has retired from the Chiefs, the sausage, a fullback, been a lot of things, special teams wonder, training camp arrivee, Marvel. He's been a lot, but he's no longer a Kansas City Chief. Herbie, what are the Chiefs what are they going to lose by not having Anthony Sherman?
A guy who understands the system and knows the fullback's role within Andy Reid's West Coast offense. When you look around the league, there aren't that many teams that utilize a traditional fullback these days, and the ones that do run a West Coast offense. So you got to figure this offseason, free agency, undrafted free agent, or even, I don't think we'll draft a fullback, but fullback's got to be high on the list because it does have a role in this scheme. And the other thing they're going to be missing is a special teams core contributor. Sherman consistently was at the top of special teams snaps. So they got to find somebody.
Yeah, I guess I'm less confident that this is going to be some spot of urgency for him. I mean, I think Sherman played like 4 offensive snaps per game last year, and it's 3 straight years that he's played under 100 offensive snaps in a season. So, I don't know what they're going to do with Nick Keiser yet, but I wonder if maybe they feel comfortable enough that he could transition into that kind of a dual role and still play, a third tight end if they can get somebody else behind. I think they're going to try and get somebody else behind Travis Kelce at that tight end 2 spot. But I don't see this being a big need for a team that's under some salary cap restraints this offseason.
Undrafted free agent.
Yeah, it makes sense to bring somebody in regardless. Even if you like Nick Keiser in that role, you definitely want to bring somebody in to training camp to see what they can do.
How about that Lovett? Remember a couple years ago, the Princeton kid, was it John? Not John. but Lovett it was kind of that sort of hybrid player. Sherman made a Pro Bowl, which was nice nice little feather in the cap of a career, and got into the end zone a handful of times. Everybody will remember the touchdown he scored this year against the Ravens, the smoked sausage play. I tend to think more of the one he scored in against the Chargers in LA. I think it was the season opener a couple years ago on a wheel route, went about 30 yards and just total.
Mahomes first game.
Yeah, that's right. Patrick Mahomes' first game as a starter. Yep. So anyway.
That was one of those throws too. There was a lot of them, but that was one, like you said, season opener. There was just, this guy is different. This guy is absolutely different. That throw, I'd never seen that throw made before.
Well, he had 4 that day, and all he did was follow it up with 6 at Pittsburgh the next week. So, so he was starting 10 touchdown passes in his first 2 games with no picks, and one of them went to Anthony Sherman. So.
And Blair, I think the last play that sort of defines Sherman is, he set the edge block for Damien Williams, kind of game sealing touchdown run in the Super Bowl, and that was more his role here. I mean plays like that. So I'm guessing, when Anthony Sherman looks back on his career, that's going to be near the top of his list as much as the times he actually scored. By the way, Anthony Sherman should have got a Pro Bowl MVP the 1 year over Patrick Mahomes, and Mahomes robbed him of it. What was that, 3 years ago?
Did you watch the Pro Bowl? I just have never spent a minute watching the Pro Bowl.
I think he scored a couple times in that game.
McDowell is a football junkie. He's admitting to watching the Pro Bowl.
Pro Bowl MVP controversy. Oh, okay.
Those takes will be, unchallenged here. Whatever you think, man.
All right. Hey, let's take a break. When we come back, we got more Chiefs talk with Chiefs guys. All right, we're back with Herbie Teope, Sam McDowell, Sam Mellinger, not Vahe Gregorian, and we're talking Chiefs because we never not talk Chiefs here on SportsBeat KC. So Patrick Mahomes walking around in a boot, so I see. Short-term thing, we'll be out of it. What's the timetable, Herbie, on this?
He'll be ready by training camp. He just had surgery. So I was like, when I see people making a big deal, he's in a boot. Well, he's not going to be walking without it. He just had his surgery. It's part of the recovery process. So, the key thing here is as long as he doesn't have a setback between now and training camp, I don't think there's anything to worry about.
That happened in the Browns playoff game. Am I recalling that right?
Yep. AFC divisional game.
And now, look, we kind of marvel at the fact that he had as good a game as he did against the Bills in the AFC title game, and the Super Bowl certainly wasn't his fault. He played as well as he could play in that loss, but doing it all on an injury that required surgery immediately after the season. So just kind of add that to the legend of Patrick Mahomes. It's tough enough to play through a turf toe. I've never had a turf toe, but I've had enough toe injuries in my life to know those are not comfortable.
It is the impressive part to me is that, he didn't look injured. You know what I mean? Like if you didn't know, there were times, like I get it, between snaps where he'd exaggerate that old man walk a little bit. But when the ball was in his hands, I mean, it wasn't like he was just limping, before the throws and stuff like that. Like it looked like he was playing, pretty close to full health. And that's another tribute to him, that he was able to figure out a way to make it work despite, some obvious pain.
Okay. We've been, Herbie and Sam McDowell have been running down the Chiefs off season by position. And we're, I think the latest one that we've seen in print is safeties. Let's talk about that just for a second, guys. Everybody assumes Tyrann Mathieu will be back and with a contract that'll be favorable to the club, structured in a way that'll be favorable to the club. And but Dan Sorensen's an interesting case, isn't he, Herbie? What do we think about Dan Sorensen's future with the Chiefs?
I think if anything, look, he just turned 31 on Friday, March the 5th. So he's getting up there in age. And the last time the Chiefs signed him to a contract extension would have been 2017. It was a 4-year deal, 16 or 17 million. But when you look at Dan Sorensen, what he brings to this defense, he is their Swiss Army knife in the backfield, on the back end of coverage. Juan Thornhill was never the same. The guy played a gazillion snaps. I think he played 100% of the snaps starting like the last 8 games. So, I mean, he's very valuable to what they do. He can slide inside in the box, play linebacker, drop back and free safety or strong safety. But here's the deal. I don't think he's going to command a high contract on the open market if he decides to test it. To me, a return back to the Chiefs makes absolute sense, but it's got to be a team-friendly deal. And at his age, at 31, you can't sign him to a 4 or 5 year deal. It's got to be one of those 1 or 2 year team-friendly type deals. And he probably would take it.
He's one of those guys who I think would be more valuable to the Chiefs than any other team in the NFL. I mean, the Chiefs know what to do with him and have put him in good positions over the years. And he's made big plays for sure. The fumble that he caused against the Browns in that divisional round game might have gotten away with helmet-to-helmet contact, but he created the touchback at the end of the first half that allowed the Chiefs to keep the big lead at halftime against Cleveland. So
Spagnuolo's done a good job with him too. I mean, there were times, and I don't mean that to say that Sorensen doesn't have talent or ability himself, but there were times before where he was getting exposed. That he was just being put in positions to do stuff that he's not capable of doing at the NFL level. And I think Spagnuolo, look, a lot of it's Tyrann Mathieu, but I think Spagnuolo's done a really good job of sort of avoiding those situations.
Okay, the next position group coming up, I think, is running back. Sam McDowell, we might be a little disagreement here on who will be on the Chiefs roster when it comes to running back next year. Let's assume Damian Williams is returning. How do you think this position is going to line up?
Well, I think it's going to line up kind of what they envisioned 2020 lining up. When they drafted Clyde Edwards-Helaire, they thought they would have this duo with Damian Williams, and I think they're going to get that next year. I still think it makes sense, to have those two and Darrell Williams. I don't see Le'Veon Bell having a place on this team. And I also wonder, even though this would be later this summer probably, I think Darwin Thompson's going to have a lot of work to do to make the roster this year. He just hasn't shown enough in his first 2 years to be guaranteed the roster spot that I think he was in his first 2 years.
Tough seeing him just as a special teams guy. He's just not big enough, I don't think, to be a –
No, and you always got the feeling that he's got a role on special teams because he's got to have a role somewhere rather than him actually fitting the way that they want, that spot on their special teams to play.
He just hasn't been a return guy either. You think a guy who plays that position, they'd give a look at return. You haven't seen that with Darwin Thompson.
They tried everybody, didn't they? I mean, this last year, they tried everybody back there, and yeah, he didn't get a crack at it.
All right, let's wind this thing down. The two newest fathers on this staff, Sam and Sam, I'm asking you guys, Sterling Sky Mahomes is one of Kansas City's newest citizens. So what fatherly advice would you? Yeah, Herbie, just mute yourself, okay? Herbie, just mute yourself. I'll tell you what, he's got some busy parents, right? I mean, mom is owner of the Kansas City Women's Professional Soccer League team, and dad is quarterback for the local 11 football team. So I think they'll have plenty of options when it comes to looking after their daughter. But anyway, it's kind of a neat thing, right? It's it certainly was got a lot of play on social media. But Patrick Mahomes, a dad. I guess one thing he's going to have to learn to do is survive on little sleep some nights. True.
Still in that.
So in this situation, because I have a lot of friends actually that have had kids right after my son's 10 and a half months now. And rather than actually giving them advice, I tell them where to get the advice. And there's a couple, because I read a few books and there were a couple that I thought were wasted. You guys probably experienced this, but there's some books out there that tell you what your wife's going to be feeling, what she should and should not be eating. And I just don't think it's a good idea to tell your pregnant wife what she should or should not be eating. So I would recommend against that. But the thing I always tell people is that it gets easier every day. There's always time to check the book. You know, I think when my wife was pregnant for the first time, I sort of anticipated this hair on fire scenario, and it's not like that at all. There's always time to check the book. And the third thing is just enjoy it, because it is a blast along the way in ways you probably just don't even imagine.
Yeah, the two things, there's two things that come to mind about like advice that I give people is like, one, the best piece of advice was just like, you know, I wish I could remember who told me this, but enjoy changing diapers. And the point of that is, if you can enjoy like kind of the parts that you're not supposed to enjoy, you know, and look at that not as like, I got to change this thing and it stinks and then I got to find the trash and all that. If you can just say, you know what, like this is an intimate thing. Like I'm not going to be able to do this forever. They're soon going to, you know, grow out of this, and enjoy just that time that you have with them. Then you can enjoy anything, anything else that comes along with it. You know, the other thing is like, looking back, and my kids aren't super old, but they're, you know, 7 and almost 5. And when they were like 0 to 2, I think I worried too much about like, you know, are they going to be okay? Am I screwing this up? Because yes, they are going to be okay. And yes, you are screwing it up in some ways. And you just got to like do the best you can. But like the only thing I also think about this is like Patrick Mahomes has a level of fame that is essentially unfathomable to, you know, normal people. And raising a kid, I mean, that kid is going to be so well taken care of. I mean, obviously financially, but more importantly, I mean, there's going to be a lot of people that love this kid. But that kid's going to be 5 years old and go to school at some point. You know, that kid's going to maybe play sports or decide, like there's just a lot of things that are just complications that I cannot imagine having, you know, and I hope that, you know, people in Kansas City are, you know, sort of aware of that and, you know, keep that in mind of just like, that girl is not going to have a normal childhood. I mean, they're just, you can't, but, you know, maybe we can help make it as normal as possible.
I actually think this is a good town for that to be possible. I mean, we just, you know, with my kids are all old and out of the house, and listen, they knew sons and daughters of professional athletes, because if you live in Kansas City, so many of them move back here, and if they're involved in sports and activities, you're going to run into them. And I think that you know, it was never a problem. I've never heard that from a professional athlete in Kansas City who retired, made Kansas City their home, that you know, it was a problem here. It's just people in Kansas City have given those athletes their space. And I've heard that even from current athletes too, Chiefs and Royals, that it's a really good place to be. Now, raising a kid, and you're right, Sam, there hasn't been anybody with the stature of Mahomes, the national stature. So we'll see how it turns out. But I kind of like the chances of having a semi-normal life in Kansas City as opposed to maybe a larger metropolitan area. So
yeah. It's interesting that Mahomes always reverts back to kind of a safe answer for a lot of the questions we ask, which is, well, you know, you ask him, how did you learn to do this? And he always will say, well, you know, I grew up in a locker room. My dad was a player. So he probably would revert back to that if any of us were asking him this question. But being the son of Pat Mahomes Sr. is going to be a lot different than being the daughter of Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City. And obviously Brittany is an athlete as well. I mean, you would assume that this kid is probably going to get in sports at some time. And I do hope that I mean, it's impossible not to, but I just hope that this kid is not judged by what her parents have accomplished.
All right, guys. Hey, thanks for the conversation, and we will do it again soon. All right, that's going to do it for today. Thanks to our SportsBeat KC production staff of Derek Donovan, Beth Welsh, Monty Davis, Jeff Rosen, Chris Fickett, and Savannah Smith. Tip of the cap to Herbie, Teope, Sam McDowell, and Sam Mellinger for stopping by and talking Chiefs. Links to their stories can be found in the show notes and on kansascity.com. Hey, we've got another deal for you. For a limited time, you can subscribe to Sports Pass. That's the Kansas City Star sports page online for 99 cents a month. That's right, 99 pennies a month. After 3 months, it auto-renews at $5.99 a month unless you tell us to cancel. And what a time to be a subscriber. The Royals are at spring training, March Madness is right around the corner, and it is never not Chiefs season. How do you get it? You go to kansascity.com/sportspass2020. That's kansascity.com/sportspass2020. You want more than just sports coverage? Check out the entire Kansas City Star product. Sports, news, features, commentary, and analysis, the whole thing. Get all the stories written by my talented colleagues, plus additional news, sports, and business coverage with the e-edition. The details for all of these deals can be found at account.kansascity.com/subscribe. If you're having trouble hunting down any of these offers, you send me an email, bkerkhoff@kcstar.com, and I will get you to the right place. So whether it's the Sports Pass or the full subscription, you're getting and supporting the best sports and news coverage in Kansas City and helping us produce programs like SportsBeat KC. Thanks for listening, and we'll be back on Thursday with another episode.